Hey film fans! Welcome to CinePro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps, from heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters. Our movie today begins at a nuclear plant in California. One of the employees is sitting and feeding his dog when, suddenly, he learns of a leak that has occurred in the facility. He goes to check out the issue with his colleagues, and security is forced to evacuate the area as quickly as possible. They make one last attempt to fix the leak in hopes of controlling the situation, demonstrating that they are a highly skilled and well-trained team. As soon as the dog sees many people around, it becomes very frightened and runs away to hide. The employee tries to search for the dog to take it with him, but unfortunately, he runs out of time, and security forces him to leave immediately. He feels deeply saddened that he cannot save his dog, which is left alone in the facility as it is sealed off. A year later, we meet a young man named Josh, who is riding in a car with his friends, driving around town together. His sister's dog sees him and starts running after the car, insisting on joining them. Josh apologizes to his friends, saying he needs to get out to return the dog home, but they refuse to let him leave and decide to take the dog along. They figure the dog won't cause any trouble. Meanwhile, at home, Ray is trying to help his daughter fall asleep. Afterward, he asks his wife about their son, Josh. From their conversation, we learn that the family has recently moved to this new place, and Josh has struggled to make friends or adapt to his new school. Jennifer suggests that Ray give Josh some space to connect with his peers, make friends, and grow to like the area more. She sees this outing as a great opportunity to improve his mood. Josh and his friends arrive at the same nuclear power plant. Josh is shocked when he finds out that one of his friends, Dwayne, has a weapon. Dwayne approaches the facility and aims at a dog standing inside. Josh runs to stop him, trying to prevent him from doing so. When he realizes they are determined and won't listen to him, Josh decides to leave and takes his dog with him. He walks along a very dark path using his flashlight. Suddenly, the dog starts barking loudly and runs off into the distance. At the same time, Dwayne and his friends begin searching for the dog they intended to shoot, splitting up to cover more ground. After a while, Dwayne hears a terrifying sound nearby and carefully inspects the area. Eventually, he finds a prey animal under the grasp of a wild, rabid dog. He screams in horror at the sight and tries to escape, but trips and falls. He struggles to get up and runs away, but the dog stays in place, staring at him menacingly. Moments later, the dog catches up to him in seconds, as it is much faster. When Dwayne turns around and sees it, he falls off a high cliff out of sheer fright. His friends search for him but cannot find him, assuming he left. They decide to leave as well since it's very late. Meanwhile, the wild dog picks up the scent of Josh's dog and begins following its trail. Josh and his dog eventually make it home, but his father scolds him for being so late. Josh is forced to explain everything that happened, expressing his frustration with his schoolmates, whom he describes as savage and insane. He tells his parents that they wanted to kill the dog for no reason, just for fun. Jennifer is shocked to learn they had a weapon and thanks Josh for being honest and not hiding anything from them. Josh says goodnight and heads to his room to rest. Jennifer and Ray are left alone, and after a while, they hear their dog barking strangely. However, they ignore it completely, unaware that the rabid dog is standing right outside their door. Their dog continues barking, trying to warn them of the danger. The wild dog manages to jump over the door and enters the house with ease. The next morning, the police find Dwayne's body in the forest and begin investigating his case to identify the killer. Jennifer and Ray are surprised to find that their dog has disappeared without a trace. Ray puts up flyers with the dog's picture, hoping someone will find and return it. When Josh hears about Dwayne's death, he feels very sad and guilty for leaving them behind. His mother tries to comfort him, assuring him that he is not to blame for what happened and that it was simply Dwayne's fate. Months pass, and their dog remains missing. Unfortunately, it has been living with the wild dog at the nuclear plant all this time. One day, the wild dog goes out in search of food and brings it back. A group of scientists arrives at the plant to inspect the reactor and address the issues there. Josh's dog runs away at the sight of them, terrified, and leaves the area with bloodstains on its body. When the wild dog returns and smells the blood trail, it realizes that the dog has left and begins to follow its scent. Josh and his sister are playing with a ball in front of their house when they hear their dog barking. Following the sound, they are shocked to find that their dog has just given birth to puppies. Sadly, the dog dies immediately after giving birth. The family mourns their loss, deciding to bury the dog and take care of her puppies. Years pass, and the puppies grow up. The wild dog visits them daily, watching from outside the door without anyone noticing. One day, a new woman moves into the neighborhood, She sees Josh cleaning their garden and approaches him, asking if he could clean her garden as well in exchange for a good amount of money. Josh is excited about the idea and agrees, making arrangements with her. Later, the wild dog appears, barking loudly outside Josh's house. Josh's dog becomes agitated upon hearing the barking and tries to get out. When Ray enters through the door, the dog attacks him viciously. His children save him at the last moment, but the dog exhibits unusual aggressive behavior for the first time. After calming down, it returns to its normal state, prompting the family to take it to the vet for an examination. The wild dog becomes very worried about its offspring, watching every move the family makes from outside the house. The vet conducts some tests to ensure the dogs are healthy and advises the family to closely monitor their behavior in the coming period. Josh recalls the new neighbor he met earlier, who mentioned that she specializes in animal behavior studies and works as a university professor. He thinks she might be able to help them with this issue. The family decides to leave the dogs with the professor since the tests will take a long time to complete, and they cannot wait that long. The wild dog realizes its offspring are locked up in that place and feels deeply upset for them, and he searches for a way to enter the clinic, and he actually manages to do so. He takes the first opportunity and enters the room where they are. He sees their doctor sitting and taking blood samples from them. The doctor senses that the dog is very agitated and moving a lot, so he tries to restrain him to examine him calmly. At that moment, the monster appears and attacks the doctor to save his son, thinking the doctor wants to harm him. The doctor screams loudly in pain and calls for help, but unfortunately, no one hears him, and he dies in the end. The monster takes his son and returns to the station to hide him. The next day, Jennifer goes to pick up the dog and is shocked when she learns what happened to the doctor. The officer asks her to speak with the forensic doctor, who questions her about all the details related to their dog. He tells her he strongly suspects that it was the dog who did this to the doctor, especially since it's the only dog that's missing and managed to escape the clinic and its cage, which is very unusual. He advises her not to take the other dog home, as it might be very dangerous for them. Jennifer feels she can't abandon him and thinks the doctor is just making things up. Meanwhile, Josh goes to the new neighbor and is delighted to find her house filled with different kinds of animals. The veterinarian explains to him that she brings the samples she studies home because she fears someone might harm them at the university, and also because she likes to keep her belongings safe. Josh tells her everything that happened with their dogs and asks for her help. Janice is surprised by what he says and gets excited to find out the reason behind the attack. She decides to go to the morgue herself. When she sees the body, she suspects that the bite on the doctor's neck belongs to a wild animal. She discusses many details with the doctor standing with her. Afterward, she leaves the morgue with Josh and tries to get more information from him. He tells her that their dog had attacked his father a few days ago, trying to get to a strange-looking dog barking outside the door. He says he sometimes hears the same barking sound coming from the forest near the nuclear station. When Janice returns home, she analyzes the saliva samples found on the body and discovers that it belongs to a mutated and completely unnatural animal. She suspects that this animal might have been exposed to radiation and mutated into a monster. The next day, Ray takes his daughter out to walk the other dog, but suddenly it runs away, following a familiar scent. The little girl chases after it, trying to catch up, but after a while, she loses track of it completely. She is shocked when she sees the monster in front of her, not knowing how to react due to its terrifying appearance. Her dog tries to defend her and prevents the monster from harming her. Ray arrives with a stick and decides to fend off the monster to protect his daughter. He uses the alarm device he has, which scares the monster with its sound, causing it to flee. When they return home, the little girl tells Josh everything that happened. She describes a terrifying-looking dog in the forest that tried to attack her. Josh is shocked by her words. After some time, her mother decides to take her out for a while. Josh uses this opportunity to go to Janice and asks for her help, telling her about the dog in the forest. Janice agrees and prepares a weapon loaded with tranquilizers to control and capture the monster easily. They take the dog with them and head to the forest together, following the dog as it knows the way well. Josh is stunned when he sees their other dog coming toward them, looking very different and behaving aggressively. Janice tries to control it and pulls out her weapon to shoot it, but she doesn't manage in time, and the dog attacks Josh, trying to bite him. Janice keeps hitting it to pull it away from Josh, but she falls to the ground. The dog tries to retaliate against her, so Josh is forced to take the weapon and prepares to shoot it. He hesitates at first, but eventually calms himself and saves her life. He feels very upset when he sees his dog lying on the ground unconscious, starting to regret what he did. Janice takes the injured dog back to the car as it needs to go to the hospital. Meanwhile, the monster finds its son's body in the forest and grieves deeply, lying beside it in the hope it will come back to life. Josh arrives at the hospital, followed shortly by his father, who is furious with him for what he did, and argues with Janice for endangering his son's life. Josh defends her, saying she didn't know anything and was just taking a walk with him. He explains that their dog attacked both of them and bit them. Janice believes that the feral dog they saw must be living in the nuclear station, and that all of this is likely due to radiation. She explains her suspicions to Ray, saying the monster must have come to take the dog from the clinic and killed the doctor as well. She warns that the monster will likely attack others and that everyone's lives are in danger. She decides to return to the forest alone with her weapon. When she reaches the spot where the dog's body was, she finds it completely gone. She is shocked to find it buried under leaves. When Jennifer returns home, she receives a call from the hospital and learns everything that happened with Josh in detail. Ray asks her to stay home with their daughter, play music, and try to draw, not sensing the monster at all. The monster manages to reach the roof and enters her and Ray's room easily through the window, destroying everything in its path as it smells its offspring everywhere. It then reaches the little girl's room and sees her sleeping peacefully. Strangely, it doesn't attack her, remembering how she used to play with and care for its children. After a while, Jennifer hears noises and goes downstairs, thinking her husband has returned. At the same time, Josh and Ray prepare to return home. Jennifer senses someone is with her and is shocked when she sees the monster. She grabs a metal rod, trying to protect her daughter. Josh and Ray arrive home, and their dog runs inside, following the scent of its parent. Ray hears his daughter screaming and rushes to her room. The monster gets scared and quickly escapes, breaking the window glass and jumping out. The whole family is terrified by what happened and decides to go to Janice's house. When they tell her everything, she suspects that their dogs might be the monster's offspring. She believes the monster is attacking them to take its children and live with them, forming a large family and lineage. Janice decides to study the matter further, and they find a solution to this disaster. Josh pleads with his dad and mom to allow him to help them in this mission so they can find a solution together. They return home the next morning when they feel somewhat safe. The monster reappears and calls his son in a specific way to lure him in. As soon as the son approaches, the monster traps him and locks him in the room outside, knowing he won't allow him to harm anyone in the family. The little girl hears the dog barking, so she goes out to check on him. There, she finds the monster standing in front of her and tries to understand what he wants from them. The monster forcibly grabs her and tries to take her to a place. Her parents realize she's missing, get extremely worried, and go out to search for her. They take their dog along the way and find it locked up. Unfortunately, they don't find their daughter at all and sense that she's in danger. Both of them rush to Janice and ask for her help. Janice explains that the monster is very clever, and that it seems when he realized his son had died and the other son didn't want to live with him, he changed his plan. She suggests that he might have taken their daughter to trap them in a specific way, and that he likely took her to the nuclear power plant. They all gather and devise a plan to rescue the girl. Josh and Ray reach the forest with the dog, as it can quickly track the father's scent. After a long time, the little girl becomes very tired and insists on resting. The monster allows her to sleep. Jennifer arrives at the plant, breaks the door, drives her car inside, and starts calling for her daughter. After a while, the dog leads them to the same path the little girl took, showing them her footprints. Jennifer and Janice enter the plant, and Janice confirms that the monster lives in this place. They grab weapons and prepare in case the monster attacks them at any moment. Each of them goes in a different direction to search for the girl. Janice encounters the monster on her path and quickly shoots him with a tranquilizer to control him. Unfortunately, the monster drops the dart and runs, attempting to attack her. Janice accidentally drops her weapon and tries to escape in any way possible. She decides to hide in gas pipes. The monster finds her location, bites her leg viciously, and drags her out. But Janice resists and escapes again, hiding in a narrow spot where the monster can't follow her. Jennifer hears a sound approaching her and prepares to shoot, but calms down when she realizes it's her dog. She rejoices that the dog is still okay, but it runs away from her. She decides to follow it, believing it will lead her to her daughter's location. Janice treats her wounds and goes to help Jennifer. Before the dog reaches the girl, it encounters the father, and they both get into a fight. The girl hears her mother calling her, wakes up quickly, and tries to follow the voice to reach her. Unfortunately, the monster defeats his son in the end because he is much weaker. In the end, the monster prepares to eliminate the humans who took his children from him. He grabs a large rope and pulls massive pipes, trying to drop them on Ray and Josh to get rid of them. His son intervenes at the right moment, protecting him, and all the pipes fall on the monster instead of his son. The monster loses consciousness due to the impact, and Josh tries to help his father, pleading with him to wake up quickly. Jennifer finally reaches her daughter, hugs her, reassures her, and takes her to safety with Janice. However, the monster finds their location. Janice tries to shoot him, and the little girl pleads with them to leave him alone, saying she can calm him down and ask him not to harm anyone. But Janice insists that he's dangerous and no one can stop him, continuing to fire multiple shots to scare him off. They meet Josh and the father on their way and help Ray to stand. They all prepare to escape. When the monster tries to follow them, Janice shoots at him, but he manages to dodge the bullets easily. When he finds the little girl in danger, he runs to save her. Unfortunately, he falls instead of her and gets severely injured. The little girl sits beside him, crying, and thanks him for saving her life. The dog approaches and sits next to his father, appearing to bid him farewell and apologize for not being with him. The next day, they bury the monster and their dog together. Afterward, they live in peace with their loyal dog. And that concludes the events of our movie today. Stay tuned for more videos and summaries.